Hello, BookTube. It's Wednesday, and that means Epic Comic Book Wednesday, the team-up between the forces of Stately Vaughan Manor and Hyde Cottage, where Michael K. Vaughan and I talk about comics, some collection, some character, some concept, some era, each week, for the four of you who are watching these videos. It's our world's finest epic collaboration. And it started on Michael's channel when he was reviewing his Epic collection, which is Marvel's full-color paperback reprint run of their vast back catalog. And I like the cut of that jib, so I horned my way in, and we decided to do these Epic Collection videos together. And because I horned my way in, I made the critical, tactical mistake of letting Michael pick what we talk about each week. That has not worked out always horribly. When his tastes co-align with mine, they are excellent. But August is the home of Garb August, an event created by Criminale on his own channel, in which Michael K. Vaughan and I are both co-hosts, and that is dedicated to garbage. And boy, oh boy, does Michael K. Vaughan have a lot of garbage comics in his collection. You would think he would avoid them, since they're garbage, but no, he has not avoided them. And he's decided, puckish little soul that he is, that we're going to read garbage comics for the whole of August. I think it goes without saying that that means we're going to be reading Marvel comics throughout the whole of August. And we're starting with The Punisher. This is a Punisher epic collection, Circle of Blood. Who cares who wrote it? Who cares who the backup artists are? Who cares what the main attraction artist's later work looks like? The only reason why anybody cares about this, the only reason why anybody noted it when it happened in the first place, the only reason why anybody would ever spend money on an epic collection, the only reason why any dude bros ever talk about this is because when the artist Mike Zeck is really on, he's really, really on. And for about 10 panels in this epic collection, he is really on. And he does some wonderful covers. If he'd stuck to just being a cover artist, we would never be talking about how horrible he can be as being an internal comic artist. But I get ahead of myself. Who is the Punisher, you might ask, if you're one of the lucky souls who doesn't know? The Punisher was created by Jerry Conway as a sort of a plop-in character in a Spider-Man issue. The issue where the Punisher makes the cover, a beautiful Gil Kane cover, and that issue is probably very, very collectible. Jerry Conway doesn't give him much of a backstory, but he had one in mind, and has been interviewed many times on the subject. He had in mind a figure who is cropping up in Garb August, which is Don Pendleton's The Executioner, which is why the story of Frank Castle seeking a one-man war of vengeance on organized crime is so similar to The Executioner's origin story, because that was on Jerry Conway's mind. He was thinking, I really like this character, I gobble up all the novels. It'd be fun if there was someone like that in the comic book world. And even, I think this epic collection, or maybe the next Punisher epic collection, actually shows preliminary artwork that was, some preliminary character design was done by John Romita Sr. And then the character was fleshed out and considerably aged up by Ross Andru, the Spider-Man artist, in the issue where Punisher first appears. And in some of those preliminary sketches, you can see Conway's writing up at the top saying, maybe we're going to call the character the Executioner and not the Punisher at all. Came that close to having it done. But instead, he's called the Punisher. It's the same origin story. His family was killed, and he's a one-man war of vengeance against the organized crime and criminals of all kinds to avenge them, even after he's killed the people who actually killed them, which counts as vengeance and nothing else does. And he wears a cute spandex costume with a skull on it. As I mentioned, as I alluded to in that scathing summary, Frank Castle's mission extends well beyond the people who shot his family to death, his wife and his 2 kids. Well beyond them. Obviously, since when we meet him, he is taking a contract from a supervillain named the Jackal to fight Spider-Man. He doesn't care about the Jackal, and he doesn't care about Spider-Man. So, obviously things have changed since then. Attempts have been made to give him a kind of deep dude bro backstory, to make him into a Cormac McCarthy character, that sort of thing. He was introduced in the 70s as a kind of a squinty mercenary type figure, and I don't think Jerry Conway had any way of guessing. I know Stan Lee didn't have any way of guessing what the late 70s and the 80s especially would do to figures like that, to gun-wielding thugs like Dirty Harry or whatever, or Wolverine, characters who are amoral, whose main purpose is violence, and who don't bear any resemblance whatsoever to superheroes. I don't think any of the original creators of this character guessed that that was coming, but boy oh boy was the Punisher ready when it did come. So he starts shooting and killing everybody. He walks into a restaurant where a bad guy has skipped on a parking ticket and blows him away. Anybody objects, blows them away as well. Waitress doesn't give him enough cream in his coffee, blow her away just for good measure. He wears Kevlar, and he has an endless supply of guns, and he shoots people that he thinks are bad guys. He shoots people that he doesn't like. And if you're thinking, well, gee, that makes him sound like just a thug, like just a paid goon. So in a Batman comic, there'd be the bad guy, he'd be a gangster, and he would have a bunch of goons. They would all have guns, they would all have backstories, maybe some of them would have a marginal ability at hand-to-hand combat. Despite all of the stuff that's been retconned into the Punisher, he just has a bog-standard military background. He is not a super athlete. He is not has no special training in combat until it's added in. He has no special training even in firearms until it's added in. He's just a normal guy who likes to shoot people. And in a Batman comic, you meet those people all the time, and they last about 5 seconds against Batman. Hell, they last 5 seconds against Robin. Batman's main concern is the gang leader. He doesn't care about the thugs. He beats them in no time at all. And then he goes after the gang leader, who's making puns in the Gotham Daily newspaper. Instead, somehow, through some weird alchemy of Marvel magic, of Stan Lee making his villains into heroes, making his heroes into wobbly nebbishes, somehow through that weird alchemy, we get the villain, the bad guy, headlining as the hero. There isn't anything more to the Punisher than that. He shoots people he doesn't like. He'll either do it himself, or he'll do it on contract for someone else. He's a bad guy. What part of that is open to nebulous ambiguity? What part of that is open to interpretation? None of it. He's a bad guy. And how he remains a bad guy is a complete mystery. His name is known. He is known as Frank Castle, the Punisher. Where does he buy his guns? Where does he buy his ammunition? He's a wanted man. He's been in prison many times. When does he meet with his parole officer? And if he doesn't meet with his parole officer, then how come the entire Chicago PD doesn't show up at his door to re-incarcerate him? It's not possible for you to do this as long as the Punisher has been doing it, much less to be considered as, to be taken as seriously as he is. It's just ridiculous. It's just absurd. The only reason it gets to be this absurd is because fans loved it. Dirty Harry fans loved it. Super armed bad guy anti-heroes of the Reagan era loved it. People of the era loved it and gave this character wings. Utterly ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. The first time that the Punisher did anything like this, there was a mob informant. He was a real bad guy, slapped his wife around a lot. The feds are using him to get at his employer who is running a huge amount of drugs through the country. In other words, doing a huge amount more harm to a large number more people. So the feds are watching this drug runner. And you hunt him down on your own hook without any advice from anyone and shoot him dead. Well, okay, that's fine. You do that as an adventure, and the very next issue, Captain America finds you, knocks your lights out, and you spend the rest of your life in jail. No ifs, ands, or buts. Captain America fights guys like this all the time, by the dozens. At a time. A dozen at a time. It's no coincidence that whenever the Punisher goes up against anybody, aside from his inaugural run with Spider-Man, it's always some lame-ass hero who has no superpowers. This character is just a gun-wielding thug. I'm not even saying that you need superpowers. Batman could handle the Punisher in about 10 minutes, as we know, because there's a great miniseries that Michael and I will eventually get to when we're done wallowing in garbage, where the Justice League and the Avengers finally team up in a 4-issue miniseries that is fantastic. Just amazing. I have serious issues with a couple of things in it, but it is largely fantastic. And when the Justice League goes to the Marvel Universe, Batman warns everyone, look, don't interfere with anything that you see. We don't want to screw up the timeline here. We don't want to give our presence away. But when Batman sees the Punisher killing a whole room full of thugs, not incapacitating them and leaving them for the police, but killing them all just wantonly, Batman jumps through the skylight and, we are told, beats the Punisher off panel in 10 minutes. 10 minutes is probably a little long for how long it would take Batman to do. It's ridiculous that this character is always brought on as some sort of heavy, when he couldn't even get food. He couldn't even make an online DoorDash order without the feds being tripped off that Frank Castle, who's the Punisher, just ordered dim sum to his doorway. Let's greet him with howitzers and flashbangs. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And yet it goes on and on and on. And it's no better in these early issues. No matter what hymns of praise Michael K. Vaughan may heap on these early issues that he has bought, that he spent huge amounts of money on, the thing that hooked him originally, I guarantee it. I knew comics fans who were buying this crap when Michael K. Vaughan was hooked on this crap. The thing that hooked him was Mike Zeck. It was some fantastic covers and the 2 issues of really good internal art that is all you'll ever get out of Mike Zeck. You won't ever get more than that. He'll be a humdinger in the first 2 issues of Secret Wars, the first 2 issues of Captain America, the first 2 issues of Venom, the first 2 issues of Punisher. He'll be all that you want for those 2 issues. And then he will just, he'll go to Mike's Delicatessen down the street and have his 8-year-old son do the pencils, or it'll look that way. It was Mike Zeck. It wasn't anything else. It was just Mike Zeck. And yet this character has become iconic. Absolutely iconic. Only in Marvel Comics, at least of the time, DC Comics, to its eternal shame, starts to imitate the worst elements of Marvel Comics. But I don't want my alleged hero, the captain, the subject of the book, to be a bad guy. I don't want him to be a bad guy. I want him to encounter a room full of villains, a room full of thugs or mobsters or bad guys or gun runners or whatever, and incapacitate them and leave them for the police. I don't want him to kill them just willy-nilly. I don't want him to kill everyone who displeases him, and that's what the Punisher does. And that is our comic for Epic Comic Book Wednesdays for now, but Michael K. Vaughan has warned that not only is this the best that we're getting in August, in other words, all of the comics that we'll be doing on Wednesdays are worse than this. Not only that, but Michael K. Vaughan has also said with a sort of malevolent gleam in his eye that there are lots of Wednesdays in August. So buckle up, and we'll see what he springs on us next week. This week was The Punisher. Here's hoping we never talk about The Punisher again on Epic Comic Book Wednesday. But considering how many Punisher volumes Michael K. Vaughan has, probably we will. But in the meantime, that's The Punisher. Oh, God. So that'll be Comic Book Wednesday for now, and I will wrap this up, but I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.